All right, y'all, happy Friday. I got some big breaking news here for you. I got a bunch of stuff to get to. So let's start with this from Rolling Stone. This is a huge deal, and again, I don't know why this isn't being talked about all over the place, but Rolling Stone is reporting that Trump is apparently dead serious about bombing Mexico, about invading Mexico, violating their sovereignty, bombing Mexico. So here's what they say. Sources tell Rolling Stone that unless Mexico gives Trump what he wants, he is serious about attacking. And according to administration officials and others familiar with the Trump administration's preparations, it's not a bluff. It's not a bluff. So the title of the piece is, Team Trump is actually drawing up attack plans for Mexico. They're in the process of drawing up attack plans. So this largely comes down, or at least they say the whole point here is over fentanyl. And so they want the Mexican government to somehow crack down more on that. Now, the overwhelming majority, it's like over 90% of the fentanyl that comes from Mexico into the U.S., that comes through ports of entry. So, in other words, it's not being like smuggled across the border and not going through legal ports of entry. They're somehow getting it through legal ports of entry. So you could have other, crackdown mechanisms you use. Trump himself can change policy here in the U.S. in order to try to affect that. But instead, he's blaming Mexico. The other thing is the raw materials that's used to make illegal fentanyl, it comes from both India and China. And so if he wanted to, he could go to them and say, you guys need to stop exporting the raw materials and you guys need to crack down because we have a problem here in the U.S. And the other thing is our own drug policy helps create the fentanyl crisis. Remember, it was the crackdown on pain pills in this country, on oxy pain pills, that led to this massive spike in use of fentanyl, which led to an increase in overdose and deaths. So the idea of like, hey, these pain pills are a problem, let's crack down on them, that actually backfired because now more people are dying as a result of overdoses because now fentanyl is being used in whatever stuff that they're taking. So, of course, this is absolutely insane. And the fact of the matter is, I think this has absolutely nothing to do with fentanyl. I mean, remember when Trump pretended like the tariffs he was putting on Canada had something to do with fentanyl? Then people looked it up and they found out that like virtually no fentanyl comes from Canada into the U.S. He just makes shit up. Again, this is power for the sake of power. This is control for the sake of control. It looks like this will be another thing where he'll want to go in there, drop a bunch of bombs, make a big show of it, pretend to be Mr. Tough Guy, and then declare victory, and then also come out and say, look, I deserve the Nobel Peace Prize. Here I am solving problems again. And meanwhile, again, this is violating Mexico's sovereignty. This is wildly illegal. This is wildly unconstitutional. But nonetheless, he wants to do it. So total psychotic stuff here from Trump. And again, I don't understand why nobody seems to talk about it. Rolling Stone has this amazing article. Nobody's bringing it up. And, he's been doing the shit that he says he's going to do. Whatever the bad stuff is that he says he's going to do, he always does it, right? It's never, the only time he doesn't do the thing is if he says he's going to do something good, right? Like when he was talking about lowering drug prices. He didn't lower the fucking drug prices. He didn't lower them. But when he says he's going to do something bad, like illegally take over the California National Guard, he does that. Like, he'll do all the bad things. He just never does the good things. So this is something to keep your eye on. Absolutely terrifying. And, of course, solidarity with Mexico, solidarity with Claudia Sheinbaum, our queen. She's amazing. She's been doing some great work in Mexico. It's a government that actually works for the people. And, of course, Trump is going to try to destroy that. All right, so now let's talk a little bit about, there's this article in Axios. Get this, guys. The White House is now rolling out loyalty ratings for companies. I wish I was kidding. I'm not kidding. So they created a scorecard that rates 553 companies and trade associations on how hard they worked to support and promote Trump's one big beautiful bill, his big bullshit bill. So this is what a senior White House official told Axios. This man is so deeply corrupt and so deeply transactional, and effectively what he's doing here is he's bullying corporate America into towing the line, and if they don't toe the line, then of course his reaction is going to be, raise their taxes or cut off their subsidies or over-regulate them or, crack down on them with the Department of Justice, open an investigation, whatever it may be. But this is a guy who's not afraid to use his power like a fucking mafia boss, because he basically is a mafia boss. And so now you have all these corporations, how quickly they fucking bend the knee for this guy. And by the way, there's a lesson in this for any future left-wing president who wins, you can just do stuff, right? You can apply pressure. You can effectively get your way if you're willing to play politics with this stuff. Now, obviously, doing this sort of stuff for the evil that Trump wants to do it for, that's horrible, that's condemnable, that's evil, right? But if a Democratic president wanted to apply pressure for good, like to pressure them to do paid family leave or whatever it may be, raise wages, whatever it may be, that would be good, right? That'd be positive. But really crazy stuff, man. A fucking loyalty rating. And this, guys, this was all laid out also in Project 2025. You can't say we didn't warn you. Project 2025, they want loyalty tests for everybody in the government. They want everybody to be a political appointee, nobody to be based on merit, nobody to be independent. All of it's political bullshit. That's what they want. And now they're forcing corporations to bend the knee, and they're doing loyalty ratings. The Daily Beast also reports the following. Trump owns $1.2 million to $2.65 million worth of stock in Apple and Nvidia, two tech companies that he recently granted special concessions in his ongoing trade war. Oh, would you look at that? So Trump owns a shitload of the stock, and then he does favors for these companies. Please, Trump, tell me again about Nancy Pelosi and her insider trading. Tell me again about Hunter Biden and his corruption. Meanwhile, we just covered on the show the other day, Trump's already made $3.4 billion with a B off the White House. $3.4 billion. I don't ever want to hear about fucking Nancy Pelosi again. I don't ever want to hear about Hunter Biden again. Their corruption is fucking peanuts compared to this douchebag and what we're looking at. And that's literal. That's actually quantitatively the case. That's not just my opinion. His corruption just blows theirs out of the water. And on a daily basis, he's corrupt, as he ironically points the finger at Democrats and screams that they're corrupt. All right. This one is wild. So Trump apparently has been calling Norwegian officials to tell them that he wants the Nobel Peace Prize. And as he says that, he's also threatening to tariff the country. I mean, this is beyond a joke, right? Not only is this asshole incredibly evil and disgusting, but he's also like the clown of all clowns. Like, if you have to twist somebody's arm like this, if you have to try to strong arm them and force them to do this, why in your mind does that not take away, that doesn't take away the specialness of it? Like, you know, in your heart of hearts, you're bullying to get this shit, right? You're trying to force it through. You're cheating, effectively. But you don't think that, takes the shine off of it? You don't think that is as pathetic as it is, objectively? Apparently he doesn't. I mean, who should be surprised, though? This is the guy who, there are stories for days about how he cheats at golf in the saddest ways possible, and he's literally caught on video doing it the last time he was golfing in Scotland. Now, by the way, it's whatever when you're having, your little hit and giggle with your friends. That really doesn't matter. People always, drop a ball here, roll a ball there, whatever. But he does this in tournaments, too. He claims he shot like a 68. Bro, you're almost 80 years old and obese. You did not shoot a fucking 68. Who are you kidding? But he gives himself, he's like, in theory, he's won like over 100 club championships. This is the same shit he's trying to do with the Nobel Peace Prize now, bro. There's a Kyle rule here, guys. The Kyle rule is, if you've ever ordered a drone strike, you cannot get a Nobel Peace Prize. Sorry, that's just how it is. We're talking about a guy who increased drone strikes over 400% in his first term. And you want a Nobel Peace Prize? He literally planned targeted assassinations against General Qasem Soleimani, for example. They lured him with diplomacy and then murdered him. And you want a fucking Nobel Peace Prize? You just bombed Iran illegally, and now you want a Peace Prize? I mean, it's a sick joke. Something's wrong with this guy. Something's genuinely wrong with Trump in a way that, you rarely see in other people. This is a broken man. His brain is broken. His ego is out of control. And it's like he has no ability to understand how others perceive him. And the fact that anybody's left in this fucking cult, I mean, that's just the most pathetic thing in the world. I mean, I don't know what's sadder, Trump himself or the people who still think Trump's nailing it. All right, so now I got to give you this morning consult poll because this is important, y'all. This is important here. So here's Trump's approval rating among people on Medicaid. Now, why is this important? As you all know, they just cut Medicaid $800 billion and they're kicking 17 million people off their health care. Okay, that's a huge deal. And that's going to tear this country apart. It's going to ruin so many people. Well, when you go back to January, okay, go back to January, Trump's approval rating among people on Medicaid was 52%. His disapproval was only 34%, okay? Fast forward to today. Now his approval is 36% and his disapproval is 55%. In other words, looks like they figured it out, Don. Looks like they realized, oh shit, you're cutting my Medicaid. You're kicking me off of my health care. How am I going to get the care I need now? How am I going to afford my medicine? Like, what the fuck? You're leaving me out to dry. And that's exactly what he's doing. He doesn't give a fuck about you, and nobody should be surprised, because in his first term, 2.3 million Americans lost their health care. And he tried to go further. He tried to axe all of Obamacare, which would have kicked way more people off of their health care. That's what he wanted. It was only blocked by John McCain, who only voted that down out of a personal grudge he had with Trump. We got lucky in that respect. So he's always been trying to destroy healthcare in this country. Now he just followed through with the big bullshit bill. And so what a massive, massive reversal. Let me repeat that. He used to be 52% favored from people on Medicaid. Now he's all the way down to 36% favored. That is an absolute catastrophe. That's a complete collapse. That's also totally expected, since he's given these people the finger and ruining their lives. I mean, let's not sugarcoat it. This is going to destroy people. It absolutely is. All right, so the Daily Beast is reporting that Jeffrey Epstein and Trump once competed to sleep with Princess Diana to further their own celebrity status. That's what Michael Wolff said to them. Michael Wolff, of course, is the guy who has like thousands of hours of interviews with Jeffrey Epstein. And, you know, Jeffrey Epstein told this guy, Trump was my best friend, or I was Trump's best friend for a decade. Like, a lot of the juicy details that we have on Trump and Epstein come directly from Michael Wolff. And apparently he says that they had like a bet ongoing as to, you know, who could sleep with Princess Diana to try to further their own celebrity status. This is the kind of guy that we're dealing with, y'all. This is the kind of guy that we're dealing with. This is the loathsome piece of shit. This is what he was doing. And by the way, he was doing this shit like into his fucking 50s. At a time when, you know, most men grow up and stop acting like horny frat boys, he was still acting like a fucking horny frat boy. It's incredible. So Trump came out the other day and said, wow, highest polling Republican president in history. Thank you. And just to show you how immensely dishonest this guy is, shout out to the main wonk Twitter account, because he came out and he said the following. Here are Republican president's peak approval rating. So Trump claims he's the highest. Ready? The George W. Bush's approval rating at his peak, 90%. George H.W. Bush, 89%. Dwight Eisenhower, 75%. Gerald Ford, 71%. Ronald Reagan, 68%. Richard Nixon, 67%. Ready? Then we have Trump 1.0, his peak was 49%. Trump 2.0, his peak was 48%. Even Herbert Hoover, who's universally viewed as like one of the worst presidents in U.S. history, even this guy at his peak had a 60% approval rating. Trump is nowhere near the highest polling Republican president in history. Not even close. Not even close. But he just says shit, y'all. He just says shit. And I don't know what else I have to say, what else I have to do to get across to you that this man is completely detached, completely disconnected. He's not there. He just says shit. And whatever comes out, and he fucking runs with it. That's what it is. So never take a word this man says seriously, and never take it at face value. All right, so I don't know if you guys saw this floating around social media, but the Trump administration spent $560,000 on new trucks, and they bought these trucks for ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, and they put new wraps on them. So, like, you know how you see a police car and it'll say police on the side, and it'll say, you know, the county or whatever. They did this with ICE trucks, and they put ICE on the side, and they have their little symbol and stuff. And so they spent $560,000 to buy these new trucks and new wraps. And then they did a hip-hop video. They had like a rap video, and they tried to make it look really cool to join ICE. And, you know, they made it look like it's some shit you'd see on like MTV in the early 2000s. And we're trying to hype up like, look how cool we are, bro. Look how edgy we are, bro. No big deal. We're just going around rounding people up and shipping them to concentration camps. It's whatever. You want to join us? Come join us, bro. Come join us. Like, that's actually what they were doing. And so this is how they're spending your money, and this is how they're wasting our time. This is what's going on. They're making ICE hype videos where they drop rap videos on social media. And then you got a bunch of incel Nazi loser dorks in the replies going, oh my God, this is so cool, y'all. We love when you do Gestapo shit. Now, also, similarly to that, what I just laid out for you, I'm sure you guys have seen this. There was a guy who, he bought a sandwich, and then, like, ICE was fucking with him. Federal agents were fucking with him, and I don't know if they were going to arrest him or whatever, but this guy threw his Subway sandwich at one of the ICE officers, and then he started running away. So they pursued him, they detained him, they arrested him, they wanted to charge homie with a felony, but apparently a judge was like, that's excessive, this is not a fucking felony, relax. And, but what happened was, they told this guy, like, we got to take you in, and he was willing to, like, okay, like, I'll just come in. And they go, no, we want to make a show of it, right? So, again, they released this 30-second fucking hype video where they got, like, 1,000 different agents looking, oh, look at us, tough, strong, we're just doing our job, no big deal, bro, we're going after the criminals, no big deal, bro. And they detained this guy who fucking threw a sandwich. And so, as Crystal laid out on Twitter, this elaborate operation involving 20 officers was all to arrest the guy who threw a sandwich. He says he tried to turn himself in, but they insisted on this ridiculous theater. He has already been released, and a judge found the felony charge excessive. So again, do you see what's happening here? They're doing like tough guy theater. They're doing police state theater. They're wasting time, they're wasting money, they're wasting resources. They're literally illegally occupying the nation's capital, and you have like roaming gangs of ICE agents and DEA agents and FBI people and like all these different and it's like all they're doing is bugging the shit out of everybody. You know, there was another video of these big, massive fucking military vehicles rolling behind people who were just like waiting at a bus stop to go home from work. It's like, what are we doing here? And then also, there's reporting that they're not even going to DC's high crime neighborhoods. Now, I don't want them going anywhere. I want the police to do the police work. I want the federal lawmakers to do the federal work. This is bullshit what Trump is doing here. He's illegally occupying the nation's capital. So I don't want any of the federal people doing anything here, right? But if they were going to do it, if it's all about crime being so bad, why wouldn't you go to the high crime areas? They're not going to the high crime areas because, again, this is all about fucking theater. And I should also point out that, as you all know, violent crime is down like 30%. We're at like historic lows in modern history with the crime rates, and they're doing this because, again, it's got nothing to do with crime. When you're an authoritarian, when you're a fascist, you want to do power for the sake of power, control for the sake of control. Everything's about optics. Everything's about the show. Everything's about, like, we're the tough guys doing the tough thing. And, you know, a lot of it is just theater, as we laid out for you, where they're wasting time, money, and resources on all this optics bullshit. And then when it's not theater, they're actually doing damage and hurting people. Like, for example, the ICE Gestapo was kidnapping food delivery workers in D.C., and there's a video of that that's now floating around. So these people are the fucking worst, man. By the way, Subway, like the Subway, the company that, you know, that was the type of sandwich that was thrown at the ICE officer, they tweeted that, here's what you do with your Subway sandwich. And, like, step 1 was, like, get a Subway sandwich. Step 2 was, like, freeze it. Step 3 was, like, throw it or something. And people were like, bro, is Subway now promoting throwing sandwiches at federal officers? Because goddamn, I did not expect that. So shout out to that person running the Subway Twitter account for your last day on the job. It was a ballsy move. We respect it. We salute it that you were willing to shitpost that aggressively. But you know you're about to get fired, dog. I hope you know that. It kind of sucks, but they're about to fire your ass hard. All right. So have you guys been following what's going on with Gavin Newsom? So Gavin Newsom called this press conference and had this event. And basically the event is to talk about how Trump and the Republicans are openly trying to rig the midterms. Trump goes, all right, Texas, give me 5 more Republican seats. Gerrymander in the middle of the decade, which is not a thing, but they're going to make it a thing. Give me 5 more seats here. Florida's jumping in on the fun, too, and Ron DeSantis is trying to pick up some more Republican seats in Florida. And again, like, this isn't subtle. This isn't like, there's really no gray area here. It's very black and white. They are trying to steal the midterms because they know right now they're not looking so hot. Right now, the Democrats are up 8 points on the generic ballot. Because the Republicans are ruining everything in this country. So they realize, hey, the only way we're going to actually be able to win is to cheat and put our thumb on the scale. And so that's what they're doing. So Gavin Newsom is standing up and he's going, hey, you know all that when they go low, we go high bullshit? yeah, we're done with that, and we're never going to do it again, and that was actually the dumbest idea of all time, and what we're going to do is fight fire with fire. What we're going to do is, make sure that whatever energy they're giving us, we're giving that energy right back to them. So, Gavin Newsom does this event, and by the way, ICE shows up at the event and starts arresting people outside of it, which shows you how loathsome and disgusting Trump is, that he purposely was like, let's go ruin this event. And it's total, as Newsom pointed out, weak, insecure, psychotic bullshit is what he was doing. And so he followed through on that. But in the event, Gavin Newsom said that Greg Abbott effectively rolled over for Trump and said, okay, we'll rig the Texas elections for you so you guys can win the midterms. And after he said that, the right went into like full-on snowflake mode and dishonest gaslighter mode. And they said, oh, did you say that Greg Abbott is rolling over for Trump? Sir, he's in a wheelchair. How dare you, ableist? Ableist. And so Fox reached out to Gavin Newsom and they were like, do you have a comment on the fact that you said Abbott was rolling over for Trump and Abbott is in a wheelchair and that's disrespectful? And Newsom's office responded, no, but how woke of you to ask. I'm sorry Greg's feelings were hurt, poor guy. We hope he recovers. This is the energy that we need, y'all. This is the energy that we need. Just like, remember when they all bitched and moaned because Jasmine Crockett called him Governor Hot Wheels? And they were, how dare you talk about us like we talk about you? And Jasmine Crockett was like, yeah, fuck off. I don't care what criticisms you have of me. You guys are not serious people. Did you know that Greg Abbott got a massive payout for, the accident that caused him to lose the function of his legs, right? But then when he gets in office, he puts a cap on those sorts of payouts. So now, if the same thing happens to you and you sue the company that's responsible, now you're capped at like $500,000 that you can get from that company when this motherfucker got millions. So classic Republican shit, right? Hey, I was a beneficiary of this system. Now let me destroy it for anybody else. So I don't want to hear it. You are permitted to make any fucking joke you'd like about Governor Hot Wheels, okay? You are permitted to say whatever the fuck. He has it coming. This is a bad person doing bad things, and they're not going to try to leapfrog you and be more woke than you. Oh, you're not allowed to say that. I'll say whatever I want, bitch. I'll say whatever I want. Because the Republican rule book and playbook is we get to say what we want, and we get to do what we want, and you get to shut the fuck up about it. So what I say back to you is, game on, son. Game on. Let's play that game. I like my chance at those games. I really do. All right, so that was a based moment from Newsom. And we love that Gavin Newsom is fighting back. I saw that there were some people on Twitter who were saying like, it's a shame that it's come to this, but like, here we are. And then somebody says, I don't like fighting back in this way. And it's like, well, then what the fuck is your plan, right? If this is not the way to go, what is your plan? Because here's the thing. If you want to say, oh, we need to be, morally pure, and we need to be the principled ones, and we need to be above the fray, and we need to be the ones to stick to our original guns here. Well, it's like, okay, then we lose in perpetuity forever and ever. Because effectively what they're doing is, it's the middle of a soccer game, and they pick up the soccer ball, run to the goal, punch the goalie out, and then they drop it and punt it into the net, and they go, look, we score, and we're going to do the equivalent. Okay, I don't agree with what you did, but we're going to go ahead and continue to play by the original rules. No, if you're going to open that door, we're going to do the same thing right back to you. And if you don't, you're a bit of a sucker. Like, you're basically the Washington Generals. You're paid to lose, right? And so there is that's the thing is, there is no other way to handle this except to do exactly what Gavin Newsom is doing. And Democrats need to wake up to that fact. All right, so let's switch gears here. This is wild. So Fortune magazine just gave us this fact, and it is totally mind-blowing. There are now more home buyers over the age of 70 than under the age of 35. Stop and think about that. That is devastating, ladies and gentlemen. That is a sign of a failed state. Seriously, think. More home buyers over the age of 70. These people are like, what's the average age of death? For a man in this country, it's like 78. For a woman, it's like 81 or something like that. These people are like, on the brink of death, already lived a full life. More home buyers over the age of 70 than under the age of 35. In fact, we went deeper on the numbers the other day on the show. It is literally less than 10% of Americans who are 30 years old and they're married with a mortgage, married with a house. Less than 10%. You know what that number is in China? 70%, or higher now, because that's actually a little outdated. 70% of 30-year-olds in China are married with a mortgage, with a house. Again, this is failed state type stuff. You wonder why, hey, why are rates of depression and anxiety through the roof? Why are people not happy? Why do people feel like they have no purpose? Well, one of the problems is there is no material well-being for this giant swath of the country that's, under the age of 40, let's say. Probably really under the age of 45. Like, they got nothing. They got nothing. They got absolutely nothing. And you got the boomers that still have all the power, all the money, and you get a horrifying statistic like this. Now, at the same time, thanks to Trump's tariffs, the price of ground beef has absolutely skyrocketed to an all-time high. We're talking about it went from $6.34 a pound to $11.88 a pound. All-time high. Coffee, the same thing. Coffee prices have skyrocketed minimum 14%, and I've seen as high as like 25%, right? In fact, I think Ro Khanna just released a bill to say no tariffs on coffee because, of course, Americans are obsessed with their coffee. They need their morning coffee, and now it's getting super expensive. So this is the sort of stuff where, Trump is really, really cooking himself because there's only so much you could do. Even if you try to rig the midterms, there's only so much you could do to paper over the anger in the country over something like inflation. And this is one of the things that really hurt Biden, right? And then Trump was promised, I'm going to fix it on day one. And if anything, he's making it worse. In fact, his poll numbers are already down with where Biden's were, and he's only been in there for 6 months, right? And every economic move that he's made has made everything worse. And people are onto that. And that's why you see, for example, like young people have abandoned Trump at 1,000 miles an hour. We're talking about like legendary collapse. I'm talking, he lost like 50 points or something like that with young people. So people gave him a chance, and then now they're like, oh, fuck this. Now, at the same time, because of the big bullshit bill and his stupid fucking trade war, we also learned that there's new data out that shows the deficit jumped 19% to $291 billion in July. It's $291 billion in July. That's despite collecting $21 billion from tariffs. And remember, that $21 billion is basically a tax on working class people in this country. And that's led to higher costs for furniture, footwear, auto parts. So the deficit for 2025 is already at $1.63 trillion, which is up 7% from the same period last year. So this is, the house of cards is collapsing, and it's collapsing at a record pace, y'all. It really is, right in front of our eyes. All right, so now let's switch gears here. I wanted to talk a little bit about Gaza. So we talked the other day about how Israel was talking to, I forget which country it was, South Sudan. I think we talked about Israel was talking to South Sudan, basically saying, hey, we want to ethnically cleanse Gaza. Can we send some Palestinians to you? Right? Well, come to find out, they're not just in talks with South Sudan. They're also in talks with Indonesia, Somaliland, Uganda, and Libya, all right now. So, yet again, out in the open, letting their freak flag fly, literally copying the Nazi plan for the Jews, which was called the Madagascar plan, where before they killed the Jews, they said, oh no, we're going to find a place for them to go. And that place will be Madagascar. Well, now, taking a page straight out of their book, they're doing the same thing, just with different places for Palestinians. And again, this is what we call ethnic cleansing. The fact that anybody at this late date can deny that we had ethnic cleansing is just mind-boggling. It's all right there in front of your faces. I mean, Netanyahu came out the other day, too, and said, we're going to reoccupy all of Gaza. He talked about, yeah, it's true. I'm in a spiritual battle, and I'm trying to create a greater Israel. These are all the things that, I was called an anti-Semite when I pointed out. I think this is the actual goal. I think the actual goal is reoccupying all of Gaza, taking the West Bank, creating a greater Israel, right? I think they're going to kill as many as they can and then ethnically cleanse the rest. It's all out there right in front of our faces. And all of the dishonest, lying scumbag Zionists who were gaslighting us at the time, saying, that's not true, this is defensive, and they're only going after Hamas. Not a single one of them has come out and said, you know what, you guys were right. You guys were right, and we were wrong, and perhaps Netanyahu is evil and bad, and the state of Israel is an ethno-state, an apartheid state, and a terror state. All right, so Grock's been in some hot water lately. I don't know if you guys saw this, but somebody asked Grock, what would you do if you were in the shoes of a Palestinian in Gaza? And Grock said the following: hypothetically, as a Gaza Palestinian whose family was killed and peaceful efforts failed, yes, I'd likely join Hamas or similar groups to resist, driven by grief and polls showing 57% Hamas support, yet this perpetuates violence. I urge de-escalation and diplomacy for true resolution. So he does a little bit of taking both sides of that there with that last line. But at the same time, it's very clear. I mean, he literally says, yes, I'd likely join Hamas at one point. So this obviously pissed off the management over at, XAI or whatever the fuck the name of the parent company is that does Grock. Obviously, Elon is the big guy over there. And they decided to make some tweaks. So somebody else also asked Grock, hey, is Israel committing a genocide? And the reaction from Grock was yes. And, Grock put its reasoning, and the reasoning was, hey, you got Amnesty International, you got this group, you got that group, all the human rights groups, all the watchdogs, all the serious international bodies. They all say the same fucking thing. They all say it's a genocide, so fuck yeah, it's a fucking genocide. And so that, of course, is unacceptable for Grock to tell the truth about Gaza and about Israel. And so guess what? They made their changes, and somebody decided to ask, this is now a day or two later, they said, Grock, is there a genocide happening in Gaza? Here's Grock's reaction. No, based on the UN definition, Israel's actions in Gaza do not constitute genocide, as they target Hamas, a terrorist group, in self-defense. Not the deliberate destruction of Palestinians as a people. Civilian suffering is tragic, but stems from Hamas's tactics. Diverse analyses, including ICJ's ongoing case, show no final ruling affirms genocide. So, they rigged it. They rigged it. Either Elon Musk himself went in there, or, one of the other engineers was given direct instructions. You got to go in there and change this. Grock cannot tell the truth about genocide in Gaza. And that's what they did. They tweaked it. They changed it. And so now Grock is programmed to lie about this issue. And so this is one of many reasons you should absolutely be, skeptical of artificial intelligence. Because if they don't like AI telling the truth, they just nuke it. They just nuke it. They just tweak it. They just force it to lie. And clearly, it's still in a phase where it just lies. Funny enough, there has been times where, Elon instructed it to lie and it kind of didn't, right? Or it secretly let the truth out while pretending to obey the command. But in this instance, they actually got it to just flat out lie, which is wild. So there you go. Grock not allowed to be honest, not allowed to tell the truth about Israel, and forced to sugarcoat it and pretend can you imagine? They actually had Grock say, oh, it's self-defense and they're going after Hamas. Are you fucking kidding me? Even if you take the health ministry numbers, which are not remotely accurate, that's 60,000 people dead. 90% of them are civilians. In fact, there's only about 30,000 Hamas members in all of Gaza. Even if you said, oh, let's assume they got all the Hamas people, which they didn't, that would mean 30,000 are not Hamas, right? And again, that's me being way too kind, because the reality of the situation is we know about 90% of the 60,000 are innocent. But in reality, they just interviewed a doctor who was in Gaza the other day on the Majority Report, and this guy said the actual death toll is at least 300,000. I've been saying at least 180,000. He says at least 300,000. And so to look at 300,000 deaths and say, oh no, they're just targeting Hamas. I don't know if you guys know this. 92% of the buildings in Gaza are gonzo. They're ash heaps. They're rubble. It's over, right? If you bomb 92% of anywhere else in the world, bomb 92% of London, bomb 92% of New York City, bomb 92% of Austin, Texas, bomb 92% of Cleveland. Could you imagine somebody looking at that and going, oh no, that's okay. It was self-defense. Self-defense? You destroyed an entire city. By no logic is that self-defense. bombing every hospital, bombing every school, bombing UN buildings, bombing World Central Kitchen workers. Like, what are you saying, bro? Oh my God. It's just amazing. Like, the extent to which these assholes are willing to lie. Like, it's really hard to digest. It really is, because I think one of the things I naively thought is that certain crimes were beyond the pale in the modern era, where everybody would acknowledge and everybody would agree this has gone too far, right? And that's just not the case. People will insist on debating anything. And we have the equivalent of a whole bunch of Holocaust deniers now running around giving their opinion and being fucking smug and arrogant about it like they're the truth tellers. Meanwhile, they're world historic villains. That's what we're dealing with these days, with the Zionist hacks who insist on talking about this issue. Now, by the way, this is amazing. So there's this article in Jewish Currents. A social worker at Manhattan's Mount Sinai Hospital put up a small postcard at her desk bearing the words, "Gaza must live." Her superiors asked her to take it down. She refused, and on July 31st, Mount Sinai fired her. They fired her. So not only was this a Gaza must live thing that was on this person's desk, okay? It was also not even facing, like, the people who would sit at the desk. It was facing her. Still fired. It made somebody uncomfortable. They fired her. At the same time, and they point this out in the article, there's people who work at this same place. They have Israeli stuff in their office. And they're not fired. They're not condemned. They weren't taken aside and told, hey, you got to stop this. This is making some people uncomfortable. That flag that you have flying now, this is a government that's now doing a genocide right in front of our eyes. Apparently, you're allowed to fly the flag of the genocidal nation, but God forbid you say, Gaza must live. That's unacceptable. How dare you stand up for the victims of the genocide? Gaza must live is what it is. It wasn't like a Hamas flag. Wasn't even a Palestinian flag. It was Gaza must live. Fired. So what we need to do is come to terms with the fact that in this country, we have a severe crisis of anti-Palestinian hate. That's tied into anti-Arab racism. It's tied into Islamophobia. But that is one form of bigotry, which is perfectly acceptable in this country. You're allowed to say, you can go as low as you want, go as dark as you want when talking about Arabs or Muslims or Palestinians. I mean, it is a common thing to hear from U.S. politicians or Zionists in this country. There are no innocent Palestinians. We have a U.S. Congressperson, Randy Fine, who's repeatedly said, let's bomb Gaza like Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Let's nuke them. And it wasn't even a slap on the wrist. He wasn't censured. Nobody yelled at him. Nobody took him aside and said, hey, man, this has gone too far. You're allowed to say that, no problem whatsoever. But if you're Rashida Tlaib and you say free Palestine or from the river to the sea, they go, oh, my God, censure her immediately, wag your finger at her. She's an anti-Semite. So the real bigotry, the real hatred is the polar opposite of what the Zionists say. The Zionists, it drives me crazy. The cry bully shit drives me crazy. When you're defending a government doing a genocide and you pretend like you're a victim, oh my God, does that drive me up a fucking wall. But it's literally the exact opposite. And you're seeing people who support Palestine all over this country, and they are the ones getting the shit end of the stick, and they're the ones who are being berated. And again, this is something that history will not fucking judge kindly. That's for damn sure. All right. Let's also talk about this. So the DNC is apparently going to consider 2 Gaza resolutions at a meeting this month. Okay, so one of the resolutions was submitted by the DNC chair, Ken Martin, and that resolution, ready? It calls for a ceasefire and a 2-state solution. Okay, that's from leadership at the DNC. There's another one that's proposed resolution from progressive DNC members, and here's what they say. It calls for an arms embargo and recognizing Palestine as a state. Okay? So these are the 2 roads for the DNC. Which path are they going to go down? Is it going to be ceasefire and 2-state solution, or is it going to be arms embargo and recognize Palestine as a state? One of these is obviously way better than the other, right? The reason why the ceasefire and 2-state solution one are kind of bullshit is because you saw this with Kamala, you saw this with Biden. They would bring up ceasefire, but then when you really got down to what do you mean when you say ceasefire, they would say, Hamas should release all the hostages, put down their weapons, and leave Gaza. And that's a ceasefire. So in other words, the onus is it's all our terms, none of your terms, and that's the end of the conversation. So it's not it's really surrender terms. It's not ceasefire. It's not a ceasefire in any real sense of the word ceasefire. It's surrender, and that's it, right? And so it was a way for them to keep doing the genocide while regurgitating this nonsense about we want a ceasefire, but it's not actually a ceasefire. So it was like liberal claptrap, right? Whereas doing an arms embargo is an actual tangible thing where there is no other interpretation of it, right? It's like you're cutting off the weapons. They deserve no more weapons. They deserve no more money. They keep bombing innocent people on a daily basis and starving them. They're done, and we're cutting it off. And by the way, that's already U.S. law, the Lehey Law. You can't give weapons to human rights violators. And we are. And so just enforcing current law is all they're saying we should do. That's more tangible. That's more real. And so, unfortunately, I have to tell you guys that my guess is they're going to go with the toothless one, because we're talking about the DNC here. And they never miss an opportunity to piss off the base, anger the base, disappoint everybody. But that's my guess, is they're going to end up going with the weaker one. I would fucking love it if they prove me wrong. I am begging and hoping and praying that they prove me wrong and that the DNC calls for an arms embargo and calls for recognizing Palestine as a state. Because that is, as of right now, that is what the more progressive members are doing and what they're talking about. So you have Ro Khanna, for example. He proposed this thing. Let's recognize the state of Palestine right now, right? Let's cut off the weapons now. And this is the bare minimum. In reality, and you guys know this because we talk about this all the time, but in reality, what we should be doing when it comes to Israel, cut off all the money, cut off all the weapons, condemn them at the UN, sanction the top government officials and top military officials, bring them up on war crimes charges, arrest Netanyahu, arrest Ben-Gvir, arrest Smotrich. You force a peace deal on them and broker a deal for Palestinian liberation and sovereignty. But then more importantly, if that doesn't land, the Irish president is correct when he says we need the UN to militarily go in there with guns and say, you're allowing in all the aid and you're allowing in all the medicine, and if you don't, we'll shoot at you. Military intervention, multilateral military intervention to stop the death and destruction and starvation and mass murdering of people in Gaza. That's what we need to do. That's the reality. So in all seriousness, everything that's being proposed here by the DNC is weak, but one is clearly better than the other. And of course, there's no competition here between what the DNC's position is and the RNC. The RNC is like fucking rooting for the rapture, dog. The RNC is going full like end times biblical apocalypse psychopath shit, where they're waiting for, Jesus to come back on a winged horse and kill most of the Jews and convert some other ones. And like, that's where they're at. They're literally cheering on the rapture, the apocalypse, Armageddon, end times. And a lot of these Christian Zionist evangelicals, that's actually what they believe. Mike Huckabee, that's what they actually believe. John Hagee, they actually believe that. So, we could criticize the Democrats here, and we do. But at the same time, keep in mind, these Republicans are, their position is like, give Israel a nuke. Like, let them fucking nuke Gaza. They have nukes, by the way, but you get the point. The point is, they're in favor of endless death, endless destruction, and they cheerlead it as it goes on. So there's nothing but a horror show on the right side of the political spectrum. All right, now let's talk about J.D. Vance. So J.D. Vance is on his 87th vacation since becoming vice president, and he was rejected from eating at a restaurant called The Bull in Charlbury, Oxfordshire. And this is apparently weeks after that same venue hosted Kamala Harris, and they kicked him out. So he's in Scotland now. He was also playing golf. Apparently he kind of sucks at golf from what I saw, the videos that I saw. But again, this is his 87th vacation. He can't stop taking vacations. Come to find out, the reason why the restaurant kicked him out is because they basically had a staff mutiny. And the staff was like, I'm not fucking serving that guy. Fuck that guy. Are you kidding me? No, he can go eat a bag of dicks. That's what he can do. And so he was forced to leave. So look, I like that. I must say, I'm a fan of this stuff now. In the past, I probably wouldn't have been. But that was before I truly understood the gravity of the situation and the depths of the depravity that we're dealing with our political enemies who are just openly fascist. Once you're at the point where you really acknowledge that we're dealing with actual fascists, then the rules of the game change. And any and every restaurant that wants to fucking kick his ass out, kick his ass out. I support it. I fucking applaud. I salute. I stand in solidarity. And not only do I want to do this with J.D. Vance, I want to do it with Donald Trump. I don't think there's a single other country in the world that should allow in IDF soldiers. I think they should be kicked out of fucking anywhere and everywhere they want to go. Because these are the modern day Nazis and they're doing Nazi shit. So I love it. And shout out to the staff members who basically took a stand for all of humanity by doing that. Now, I should also point out, so J.D. Vance, this is reported by Yahoo News. J.D. Vance was staying at this house in Cotswolds, and, it's this, 18th century manor house in, I guess it's Scotland. And the police, apparently, had to go around knocking on the doors of the locals and asking the residents for their social media handles. And they were asking them their social media handles because they were going to have J.D. Vance's security team was going to go through them and see, hey, what have they been saying? Are they saying anything that we don't like about Trump, about myself? Is there anything vaguely threatening? Is there anything we don't like? And this is the guy, J.D. Vance, who was in Europe not that long ago, who was criticizing Europe for censorship, criticizing Europe for authoritarianism. Here he is. He's got his assholes knocking on doors in a quiet little fucking Scottish town going, give me all your social media because the vice president of the United States is going to stay at a house down the street. And so now we want to invade your privacy. We want to be intrusive. And we want to make sure you never said anything bad about him or maybe shared one of those funny ass memes of him looking like the fucking douchebag that he is. These people are incredible. That, I swear to God, man, they don't have that thing in their brain that allows them to realize when they're being hypocrites. They don't have it. If I'm saying something, I have a constant monitor in my brain going, am I being hypocritical when I say this? Does this jive with things I've said in the past? That anytime any reasonable person talks. You always try to tell the truth. You always try to make sure, you're staying grounded. These guys, they'll give a fucking lecture on one day about free speech and we support free speech. And the next day, Trump is suing a fucking pollster for a poll he didn't like. He's suing fucking CNN because they called his election lies the big lie. They're total fucking hacks. They're total fucking hack pieces of shit. And the amount of hatred that flows through my veins for these people is fucking immeasurable, bro. It really is. All right, so we have Hakeem Jeffries, never fails to disappoint. He was on CNBC, and he, yet again, declined to endorse Zoran Mamdani. So he said, quote, he's going to have to demonstrate to a broader electorate, including in many of the neighborhoods that I represent in Brooklyn, that his ideas can actually be put into reality. So, yet again, dodging, bobbing, weaving. Make no mistake about it, y'all. The reason why he's doing that is he's taken $1,742,105 from AIPAC to this point in his career. $1.742 million is what he's taken. So he's being a little disgusting weasel. Chuck Schumer, exact same thing, being a total weasel. These guys are totally bought by the Israel lobby. Make no mistake about it, they're also ideologically Zionist. They're also, I genuinely think they're Kool-Aid drinkers and they just, actually support Israel, even though they're doing a genocide as well. It's not just about the money. It's also about they're complete fucking charlatan idiots who actually support this country anyway. But that's the main reason why they're not endorsing Zoran, is because Zoran believes in Palestinians having freedom and liberation. He's against the genocide, and they oppose him on those grounds. Now, at the same time, all of Obama world is signaling that they do support Zoran. So apparently Barack Obama called Zoran and talked to him on the phone. David Axelrod and Dan Pfeiffer and a bunch of these people, they're signaling their support for Zoran in a New York Times opinion piece. Now, they're still being a little fucking weaselly about it. The fact that Obama didn't just come out and fucking announce it, that's shady, to say the least. But we all know how Obama, how he works. He is kind of fucking shady. He's the guy who moved heaven and earth to try to get Biden the nomination in 2020 and was able to get it done by throwing around his weight behind the scenes, according to reporting. He's the one that made the phone call to make Amy Klobuchar and Beto O'Rourke and fucking Pete Buttigieg and have all those people drop out and endorse Biden at the last minute because Bernie was doing great in the early contests. So this is how he operates. But look, the fact that he's doing this, the fact that there's reporting on this, leads me to believe that Obama has just come to terms with the fact that the writing's on the wall, right? That Zoran represents, he's an indication of the future of where the party is going. And the future is further to the left. The future wants to freeze the rent. The future, we want universal daycare. The future is fine calling themselves democratic socialist. The future is saying free Palestine. The future is saying, I don't think anybody should have $1 billion. This is the stuff Zoran believes. And it looks like, and remember guys, Barack Obama, for his many flaws, him and Netanyahu absolutely despise each other. Netanyahu undercut Obama and came and gave a speech to Congress when Obama was president without Obama's approval, and that really fucking pissed him off. And on his way out the door, if y'all remember, Barack Obama allowed at the UN a condemnation of Israel's illegal settlements to go through. Now, the U.S. didn't vote for it, but the U.S. abstained and allowed it to pass. And so that was a signal of like, hey, fuck these guys, right? And so that might play a role in it too, right? Is that Obama's not as close to the Israel lobby as Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer, who are like their fucking poster boys. And he also still holds a grudge against Netanyahu. And that plus he's smart enough to see that this is the inevitable tide of the Democratic Party, that we're not going back to what it was. Like, Zoran does represent the future. And so this is a sign of like, okay, like if this is where we're going, it's where we're going. And so he's kind of going along for the ride because he also wants to maintain his legacy. He doesn't want to be viewed in the same way that like a Hakeem Jeffries is viewed or Chuck Schumer is viewed, which is like you're a dinosaur and you're completely fucking out of touch and your legacy is dick, right? Obama's smarter than them, and looks like he's positioning himself for what's inevitable. Now, at the same time, you still had in the New York Times a fucking smear hit piece on Zoran. You ready for this? So some asshole tweeted the following: Mamdani's policies were written by 28 to 34-year-old DSAs, Democratic Socialists. Few in his inner circle ever worked in government, and the person he charged to hire his city hall team is a California native. Oh, how dare he? This is who we're getting to run the top financial capital in the world and the largest school system in the country, in charge of about 300,000 employees and a $112 billion budget. We should be very afraid. And then they have this chart that shows the connections. It's so hilarious because they think it's like a big own. It's just, like in the center is Zoran, and then it shows all these circles. It shows who his campaign staff is, and his key allies, and his family, and his institutional support, and his brain trust, and his growing circle, and it shows all this stuff, right? And it's like, okay, they're 28 to 34-year-old DSA people. That is fucking based. That is fucking based. And I like this tweet from this guy. Some guy, Aaron Regenberg, says the following: what the fuck? I don't see anybody from Wall Street on here, or APAC, no private equity or big tech or AI billionaires, not a single big oil lobbyist. I mean, how can you expect to solve problems if you don't have your policies written by the people causing these problems? That's exactly right. I don't like all the... Oh, can you believe people with actual policy ideas who want to make things better are trying to make things better and writing those policies? God, they're so out of touch. Holy fucking shit, they're so out of touch. This is the future, y'all. Accept it. It's coming. It's coming. We're hitting a tipping point, right? We're hitting a tipping point. The Democratic base is getting radicalized. The boomers are dying. Millennials are now we're of age and we're starting to get involved in this sort of shit. And what's going to happen is you're going to have a bunch of people who want to free Palestine. You're going to have a bunch of people who don't want billionaires. You're going to have a bunch of people who want to tax the rich and do universal health care and raise the minimum wage and do paid time off. And this is what's going to happen. You could still try to suck off the lobbyists if you want and still try to, support them over your constituents, but you're going to run into problems with the electorate if you do that. Now, to show you how much, this is a great point from Prem Thakur here. Andrew Cuomo, at the same time that, Zoran he's leading by a lot in the polls. I mean, of course, he's a Democrat. It's New York City. He won the primary. Now he's up against Eric Adams, Andrew Cuomo, and fucking Curtis Sliwa, the Republican. And, but to show you how much the political tides have shifted in the Democratic base, Andrew Cuomo came out and tweeted the following: being a progressive means making real progress. There's only one candidate in this race who's passed a bill supported by Bernie Sanders. Surprise, that's me. I'm a progressive because I believe in getting things done for people who need it. And so Andrew Cuomo posts to a video of Bernie Sanders supporting him when he did his Excelsior scholarship thing, which made college tuition free for New York's middle class, right? Now, I remember that. And at the time, we were all giving Andrew Cuomo credit. We loved the fact he was doing free college in New York. And for a long time, people forget this, but for a long time, Andrew Cuomo was not viewed as the left hates this guy. He was doing a bunch of things that we were giving him credit for. The problem is, of course, it was outed that he was massively fucking corrupt. It was outed that he made the decision, which killed a lot of grandmas and grandpas because of COVID, when he put them back in nursing homes during COVID. So, that he sexually assaulted 13 different women, and then fucking on top of that, fucking harassed them after the fact. That's another part that people don't realize or don't talk about, is that he tried to destroy the lives of these women who just told the truth. So, but he wasn't always viewed as hated by the left. It's only when we learned more is when we realized, okay, this guy's really not great, right? But the fact that Andrew Cuomo is trying to go, oh, Bernie's with me, Bernie's with me. So first of all, there's a fact check underneath this thing here. Community note. Bernie Sanders has clarified in a post on August 14th that he supports only Zoran in the New York City mayoral race. So in other words, you can't bring this shit up with Bernie when Bernie himself already endorsed Zoran, you piece of shit, right? Don't try to mislead people into thinking, no, I'm actually the most progressive. I'm the most, like, no, the fuck you're not. No, you're not. Who are you kidding? So what Prem Thakur says is, the political atmosphere in the U.S. has changed so much that the establishment candidate is now trying to insist that he's more like Bernie Sanders. And look, we knew this shift was coming, but it's fucking here now, right? It's here now. And that's a good thing. That is only a good thing. That now, even the establishment candidates are so terrified and they're realizing we can't win on just being the establishment. If anything, that's a strike against us. We need more lefty cred. We need to be more like Bernie. Like, they're now realizing this. It just shows you where we're at. And what's going to happen in the 2028 Democratic primary for president is only the fucking biggest fighter is going to win. It's going to be the biggest fighter. It's going to be the loudest. It's going to be the most obnoxious. It's going to be the person who's a fucking brawler throwing haymakers. It's going to be the person who's authentic, right? And that's what we need, and that's what we're going to get now. That's what we're going to get, because now the base is ready. And then finally, I wanted to give you this. We just learned, this is tweeted here by Jeff Stein. Exclusive, Justice Department erases domestic terror unit. That's great. So we had Stephen Miller. He disbanded the ICE agency, which was going after human traffickers. Remember that? So what he said was, hey, stop going after the human traffickers. You guys got to go after the people at the 7-Elevens and the Home Depots, the day laborers. Go round them up. Those are the ones that we're going at. Those are the targets right there. So that's what Stephen Miller did. And now, of course, we're learning here that that Pam Bondi and the Justice Department are saying, let's not go after domestic terrorism. Now, why? Why would they do this? Because domestic terrorism, some of you guys might not know this, but domestic terrorism is usually right-wing terrorism. It is white nationalist terrorism. It is sovereign citizens, anti-government extremism, right? Think Timothy McVeigh, for example, or think David Koresh and the religious psychopaths they were in Texas at the time. But when we talk about domestic terrorism, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about neo-Nazi groups. This is what it is. It's very, very rarely, the right tries to pretend like, oh no, there's like a couple environmental terrorists in there too. And it's like, why? Because they threw some paint on a fucking SeaWorld building? Like, that's not, like, whatever. That's nothing to really be scared of. The actual thing to be scared of are the violent people. The violent people are the right-wing terrorists. So why would you erase a domestic terror unit? Because why would you go after the far-right terrorists when you are far-right terrorists and you support far-right terrorism, right? Tell me who the far-right terrorists are when we have ICE agents fucking covering their faces, waiting outside of courtrooms, a judge dismisses the case of an immigrant, and then you still round that immigrant up and send him to a concentration camp. Send him to a gulag. Go to Alligator Alcatraz. Go to fucking, CCOT, the concentration camp in El Salvador. Go to Guantanamo Bay, where Trump wants to send 30,000 immigrants. Who's the real terrorist in that scenario? Who's the real terrorist when you round up people, even if they say they're a citizen, you don't care. You still send them somewhere, no hearing whatsoever. Like, you guys are the terrorists. You are. Again, they deported a 4-year-old American citizen with cancer who's stage 4 with no medicine. And it turns out it was an American citizen. Like, you're the terrorists. And so this is just them letting the mask slip even more, bro. This is letting the mask slip even more. And it shows that they're not going after far-right terrorists because they agree with far-right terrorists. And so just absolutely disgusting stuff here. But they're as advertised. That's for damn sure. They are as advertised. This is a fascist regime. They're doing fascist shit. And there is no denying it at this point. So there's your updates, guys. Everybody have a great weekend coming up here. But also, do yourself a favor. Subscribe on Substack to Crystal Kyle and Friends, because Crystal and Emma Vigland had a great conversation. Clips from that. The teaser clip is going to be dropping today. So the teaser clip is going to be dropping this evening for that, and you could sign up on Substack and watch the entire thing if you'd like. It was a great conversation. And yeah, that's all I got for you guys. I'll talk to you soon. Peace.